I'm Mehta, Editor-in-Chief of Breaking Defense. We are here for the last day at the Sea Airspace Conference held outside of Washington, D.C. We're going to change things up a little bit. No Justin Katz this time. We're not talking about the Navy. We're talking about the other two parts, air and space. This is Michael Marrow. He's our Air Force reporter, kind of moonlighting as our air correspondent for this show. Michael, let's talk about some things that aren't ships. Let's start with the F35, which is obviously famously a little bit on the delayed side as programs go. Some news about the logistics program is kind of driving a lot of this. What happened here on Monday?
Right, so we heard from Bridget Lauderdale, who's Lockheed's vice president for the F-35 program, and she was on a panel with Lieutenant General Mike Schmidt, who's the program executive officer for the F-35 program. And they talked about the program moving towards what's called a performance-based logistics sustainment contract, where Lauderdale explained that this would enable repairs to be more efficient, easier through things like repairing things on an aircraft rather than fielding an entirely new part. In order for that deal to move forward, though, Congress in the fiscal year 2022 NDAA stipulated that the PBL would either need to reduce costs or increase readiness. So a spokesman for the Joint Program Office told us that assuming those conditions are met, the contract to Lockheed for the performance-based logistics sustainment approach could be awarded by the end of the year.
And this is something Lockheed's been trying to get set up for years. They see it as a good deal for them. There's been some resistance in Congress, as you mentioned, over fears Lockheed could maybe take advantage of this and not give the taxpayer the best deal. So it's interesting this is actually getting towards the finish line. Right.
So cost has always been a key part of this program. So where it ends up in terms of cost, because again, it's an either-or situation with the NDAA. It could either increase readiness or reduce costs, or it could do both. So we'll have to see where that ends up when the contract is awarded, but we'll be sure to keep an eye on it at Breaking Defense.
All right, so space. Let's talk about space a little bit. On Monday, Derek Tournier, who's the head of the Space Development Agency, spoke a little bit and gave an update on the Tranche 0 set of satellites. What's going on with that?
So Tranche 0 was supposed to launch in December. They just got their satellites up this week. The Space Development Agency is pursuing its satellite acquisitions in a tranche-like model where every 2 years, roughly, satellites are acquired and then launched. So we're in Tranche 0, the initial phase of a new proliferated satellite architecture where small satellites distributed across the orbit instead of being concentrated in what have often been called big, juicy targets. Those are going to be the future of the Defense Department's satellite architecture. So the Space Development Agency is celebrating the launch of those satellites, the start of this new chapter. But they are a few months late, and because of some additional issues with certification from the FAA, the director of the Space Development Agency, Derek Tournier, earlier this week said he's not sure that those satellites are going to be ready for the Northern Edge exercise coming up this summer, where those satellites were supposed to be involved in some initial key testing. So what the DoD's plan is for how to evaluate how these satellites work at this point is not clear if they will not be a part of the Northern Edge exercise.
All right, so something else we'll be keeping an eye on. Just quickly at the end here, kind of some interesting comments from a Navy intel officer about China today as well.
Right, so Rear Admiral Mike Studeman, who is the commander of the Office of Naval Intelligence, one of many intelligence community agencies, he said here that it's not entirely clear that Xi Jinping has complete command and control over his forces, meaning that for example, when a fisherman or a U.S. boat gets harassed in the South China Sea, it's not always clear that that direction is coming from the top. So that has implications for how we think about future confrontations in the area.
Yeah, there's sometimes an idea, I think, that Xi Jinping is sitting there with his hand in every single decision making. And that obviously, if that's the consensus in Washington, that's going to change how people here look and react to China. So it's important to get these kind of assessments out there.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you moonlighting here. Again, Mehta with Breaking Defense. Thanks for tracking all our coverage. We'll have some more stories coming up in the coming days. Make sure to check breakingdefense.com for all of those. Thanks for watching.